Welcome to the Cumberland Fair. The fair has changed a lot since it first began. Let's go and take a look at what the fair was like when it first started.
What was it like when you first went to the fair?
I first went to the fair in 1960 when my family moved to the Cumberland, North Yarmouth area. And I was dating George Small, with whom I have been married for 52 years now. And his mother and Ruth Norton and Mary Hall from Wyndham were the superintendents of the exhibition hall. I was recruited to work in the exhibition hall because I could, at age 16, I could climb up high and help them decorate the things in the exhibition hall. The fair was pretty much the same today as it was then, or was then as it is today, had pretty much the same things.
The exhibition hall is a place for people to display things such as artwork, quilts, foods, and even different organizations. It has been and continues to be a great place to visit to see things made by people in our community.
Ever since the fair began, farming has been a big part of it. We sat down with experienced farmer John Chandler to talk about this.
Do you think farming is an important part of the fair?
Well, yes. I mean, that was really, in the past, the reasons for the fair, and that is that the local farmers could come once a year and display their cattle, buy and sell. Also bring their team of horses and pull competitively. And also the people that had gardens could bring their vegetables and show their vegetables and have fun competing with that and get ideas. And a big part of the fair before and still is for farmers who raise animals or birds and also farm to vegetables to get ideas for their future.
Why do you think the fair is important to farming and to Cumberland?
It's kind of a show and tell type of thing. Farmers get to exchange ideas. There's an educational aspect of it too, and particularly Cumberland used to be a farming community, and it gave everybody a chance to show off what good crops they had, and the wives with their cooking and their needlework and so forth and their crafts. Nowadays it's more of an educational thing for people in the metropolitan areas to come and see, because a lot of people do not realize, they go to the grocery store, you go to Hannaford's or Shaw's or whatever, and you can just pick up your vegetables there. But a lot of people don't realize that what goes on with the fruits and vegetables, the milk, the eggs, and so forth.
Going more deeply into what has been said before, animals and farming were the original reason for the fair.
The reasoning behind this was that farmers used to bring their livestock to the fair so they could show it to other farmers, and so that then they could get ideas on how to raise their animals better. In the long run, without animals and farms, there would have been no Cumberland Fair.
But since 1960, they have added quite a few things to the fairgrounds. They've put an addition on the end of the exhibition hall. And a little point of interest here, the original exhibition hall was what is now the 4-H hall, and then they made a bigger one in 1960, and then they added on to it later on. But they had the rides, they had the fried dough, they had the pig scramble and the calf scramble, and the horse racing, which has been since the fair was incorporated. So basically it was the same then as it is now, but we've just added a few things to the fairgrounds proper. Some of the buildings that have been added to it is the Farm Museum, the Maple House, the Horticultural Building, which is named for my father-in-law. They've moved a couple of buildings onto the fairgrounds. They've put the blacksmith shop and the little schoolhouse and the farrier's shop.
Like Mrs. Small talked about earlier, there are a few things related to farming that weren't originally in the fair. These things include Old MacDonald's petting zoo, various bunny showings, and the very popular pig races. Since they first began, the pig races are a great way for kids to get involved in farming. Kids teach pigs how to come to certain foods, and then they go and race them at the fair.
Even though there are many new things related to farming in the fair, there are also many things that are the same, such as the draft horse and steer pullings,
as well as the pig scramble.
The pig scramble is a way for kids to get involved in farming and the fair. Children run around the pulling arena and catch pigs, which they are then allowed to bring home. Another way for children to get involved in farming and raising animals is the 4-H Club, which allows children to compete in their own division with the animals that they have raised.
The 4-H Club also allows kids to learn more about farming and their community. There are also many historical artifacts that can be seen throughout the fair. Most of these can be seen at the Farm Museum.
What is the first thing you think of when you think of the fair?
I think of the museum, the cooking, and I love the people that I meet. That's really interesting.
What kind of things do you cook in the Farm Museum?
Sunday mornings I go in and I make chocolate and plain donuts, and they disappear as quick as I take them out of the fat and put them on the table. And then I make macaroni and cheese one day, beef stew another day, corn chowder another day, beans a couple of days. And we have another lady comes in and makes cookies, and I don't do the desserts. Except on Wednesday I make 5 pies, apple pies.
In the museum there is a case just as you come in to the right-hand side, which has some diaries in it. And those diaries are from my family. I found them when we cleaned out the house after 6 generations had lived in that house and nobody had ever moved out. They just piled their things on top of everything. So about 15 years ago, my sister and I cleaned the house out, and we found diaries from my great-grandfathers and grandmothers and so forth. And I took them up to the fairgrounds because a lot of times there was a talk about the fair in these books. The diaries talk about, of course, a lot of times the diaries talk about, number one, the weather, and number two, they talk about how much things cost. So I just thought it was interesting to see how much they would talk about how much it cost to go into the fair and how much they got for their jar of pickles that they took to the exhibition hall and those kinds of things. So those diaries are still there.
There are also many other historical objects around the fair.
You can also go and visit the Horticultural Building, which was first founded in 1998. Inside, you can see things such as an old antique car and an old antique train set.